In this session, we're going to look at scope management. Scope management is quite a big topic for project managers. And what we mean is, what are we going to deliver? What are the outcomes and what are the benefits that the project is going to achieve? So within this section, there's 4 parts: defining and managing scope, defining requirements, configuration management, and change control. So what do we mean by scope? So let's use the example of a school in a deprived area. So we're building a new school in a deprived area. And let's think about the different components of scope. Let's start with the outcome. So if you're developing a new school, what outcome would you hope to get? Well, how would you measure the success of a new school? It's about raising attainment levels and aspirations of the pupils who go to that school. So what would be the benefits? So people get better grades in their exams, for instance. So what would be the benefits of that? Well, there's benefits for different stakeholders. So for the pupils who go to the school, it's better future prospects, better jobs. But for local employers, there are benefits. For parents, there are benefits. For society in general, there's benefits from having a better school. So the benefits depend upon the stakeholder. So let's now think, if we want to achieve that outcome of a better school, what does that mean? What in terms of the outputs we have to produce for the project? One of those outputs might be new buildings and new playing fields and new labs, science labs, etc. But is that going to be enough? Well, maybe we need new teachers or teacher training programs as well. So quite often, like a program, we see multiple projects delivering outputs that combine together to give you that outcome. So for me, for a good school, you need good buildings, but you also need great teachers. And if you have both, you're more likely to achieve that overall outcome. So a project produces an output being the school. So but we need to develop that scope in more detail. So if you think about a school, what are the components that make up that output? Well, you've got science blocks and kitchen facilities and admin blocks and English teaching facilities, geography, sports facilities, car parks, bus parks, lots and lots of components or products that go up to make that school. So what we really need to do is understand how the project is scoped in terms of the products that it's going to produce. And when we mean a product, people might call this deliverables. So what are the products that we need to produce? So think of a school. When you went to school, what were the products that we'd have to create? We'd have to create car parks and drainage, science blocks, English blocks, canteens, staff facilities, admin facilities, lots and lots of products. So we need to understand what all those products are in order to create that school. Now let's take one of those products, let's say the science block. So if we're going to create a science block, what do we need to do? Well, we probably need to design it. We probably need to do some stakeholder engagement to find out what people want. We probably need to dig out the foundations and put the services in and build the walls and put the roof on and fit it out with all the equipment that we need, and then we need to test it. So to create that one product of a science block, we have lots of work that requires to be done. And that work might be broken down into different work packages done by different organisations. So the design might be done by an architect, the construction might be done by a construction project manager, the consultation with the teachers might be done by the client side project manager. So one product might have multiple work packages. So a work breakdown structure describes the way in which we're going to deliver the products. In fact, we may split the work into different phases, conceptual design, site clearance, construction, commissioning, and the science block will feature in each of those phases. So you won't necessarily see one-to-one correspondence between your work breakdown structure and your product breakdown structure. So I've talked about work packages a bit. It's a discrete project. It's part of the project. It's got on a single accountable owner. It's got its own duration. It's got its own budget. And sometimes that work package becomes a statement of work for a contract. So that work package is then subcontracted out to a provider who's going to do that work. And we might decompose it into further detail as part of the planning process. So what's an organisational breakdown structure? So if you imagine you're developing this school project, you will have different people involved in the project. You'll have design people, you'll have engineering people, you'll have people who are building the foundations, you'll have people who are training teachers on how to use the new IT. And they all might come from different organisations, but for the purpose of this project, they report to the project manager. So that's what we call an organisational breakdown structure. Now, it's going to be important that these different people talk to each other. So I might be responsible for fitting out the science lab, but I'm going to have to consult the science teacher, and I'm going to have to inform the people who are providing the equipment when I need the equipment. So that introduced the concept of a RACI chart. And what we do with a RACI chart is we set out the work breakdown structure at the top. So all the work that needs to be done to deliver the project. And then on the other side, on the side of the OBS, we set out the organisational breakdown structure, the people involved in the project. And then we define who's responsible for each work package. So you can imagine in terms of contractors, who's responsible for the delivery of each work package. It may not just be contractors, it may be an internal team who's responsible. The A is who's going to hold that person to account for the completion of that work. And many times that might be the project manager. But in design and science block, I probably need to consult the teachers, I might not contractually be reporting to the teachers, but I need to consult them. So that's where the C comes in, consult. Who do I need to consult? And then inform, so who do I need to tell when I've finished? So I may need to tell the equipment manufacturer what equipment I need to be delivered to the school to fit out. So it's called a RACI chart or role assignment matrix. Responsible, accounted, consulted and informed about the project. And we get it through marrying the work breakdown structure and mapping it across to the organisational breakdown structure. Finally, people are going to how much is it all going to cost? So how do we price up the job? Well, we've got different cost headings that we're going to use. So labour, effort, so that's usually the amount of designers or construction people that we need to do the project. Materials, material is something that is left in the project when you finish. So steel or concrete or paint or carpets or equipment. Overheads, well, that'll include things like overheads in terms of heating and light in the project offices, but also travel and subsistence overheads, things that are consumed in the development of the project. So we can use, different labour will have different rates, so the designer will be a different rate from the person who's doing the concrete pouring, from the person who's doing the IT installation. So a cost breakdown structure has all the different day rates for all the different resources, and we can use that with the work breakdown structure, going back to the work breakdown structure, to understand how many hours there are in each work package and how many materials there are. And we use the cost breakdown structure to work out how much that project is going to cost us. So that's the initial breakdown of the scope. We've identified all the outcomes, the outputs, the products that we're going to produce, who's responsible for producing those products, and the RACI chart that maps the accountability for delivery of these products to the organisation.